This is the 2024 Kia EV9 GT-line. It's the fully spec version in this color combination called Pebble Gray, together with all the black accents, the boxy shape and all the sharp angles. It makes the car look really sharp and edgy and masculine. Built on the same platform as the EV6, this is the second car built on the EGMP platform. It's the co-developed fully electric platform between Hyundai and Kia. The EV9 is a lot bigger though than the EV6 because it measures 5 meters, just over 5 meters in total length, and has a wheelbase of 3.1 meters. This is a big car, weighs in at 2,650 kilograms, a heavy beast. But that actually makes room for 7 seats. So it comes with 7 seats as a standard with an option for 6 seats, making the Kia EV9 the first affordable, fully electric, full-sized 7-seater SUV on the market, actually beating the long-awaited Volvo EX90. It's a bit bigger than the non-GT line, so a couple of millimeters. I think it's 5 millimeters longer than the non-GT line version, and also like 15 millimeters higher than the non-GT version. It's not only big, it is also powerful, driving on all 4 wheels with 2 motors, one at the front, one at the back, delivering 190 horsepower each and 350 newton meters. It's permanent magnet motors together, delivering a total output of 386 horsepower, 700 newton meters of torque, and does 0 to 100 in 5.3 seconds. Top speed 200 kilometers per hour. So it's a hefty, powerful machine with more than enough power to take you from A to B. And as usual, Kia is really good at dealing with LED lights, so even in this case for the EV9. Look at this daylight running lights going through the front section. It almost looks like a bolt or a lightning. 12 LED sections for the main headlight and a closed front with cameras for park assistant functionality and an active ventilation down below at the front. Otherwise, a very flat surface catching up a lot of air, so it may not be the most efficient car in highway speeds. Driving on a 4-spoke design, 21-inch rims, 285/45 all around. In this case, Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 SUV studless Scandinavian tires. That's a long name. And as you hear, that's only plastic aero covers to be able to increase the range and increase the efficiency of the car. And whilst talking about range and efficiency, the stated WLTP range is 505 kilometers for this car. You can get the rear-wheel drive version, and that can have up to 560 kilometers with the same battery pack. It has a big battery pack with a gross capacity of 99.8 kilowatt hours and a net capacity of 94 kilowatt hours. And whilst talking about the battery, it's also important to mention the charging specifications. And Kia used to be good at charging, and that also goes for the EV9. So it supports 800 volt systems and 400 volt systems. So if you can find a charger that can deliver 800 volts, you can achieve a top speed of 210 kilowatts and charge it from 10 to 80% in 24 minutes. For home charging though, it delivers 3-phase support and 11 kilowatts. So a decent charge curve, fairly flat. I'm gonna test that in my next video, so stay tuned for that. And as I mentioned earlier, Kia loves to play around with LED lights. That also goes for the charging in this case. This square-shaped LED light here is actually the indicator of the battery. So depending on the level of lights here, it also tells you the current state of charge. In this case, it's around 70%, so the last part is not lit up. Let's look at the rear end and some practical aspects of the EV9. Again, great implementation of the daylight running lights. The LED implementation that Kia has carried out is really stunning and good looking all around the car. A hidden windshield wiper, really nice, does not add to the drag coefficient. Backup camera at the top, and also one at the lower part, just underneath the boot lid. Powered liftgate, and with the third row up, 330 liters of cargo capacity. Electrically foldable rear row. Look at the headrests, pop down, and in this way, total flat surface of 825 liters of cargo space. You can also fold the second row from here, and as you see, a perfect layout for camping. And with the vehicle to load functionality and utility mode activated on the screen, I have actually installed a coffee machine instead of a rice cooker, as one of you asked, because I'm not really in the mode for rice now. I want to have some coffee. Let's test that and see how it works. So the vehicle to load functionality can deliver 3.68 kilowatts of peak output power, and you have two options. One is to use an adapter for the charge port. The other one is to use the outlet here on the side. And as you saw, I just brewed a fresh cup of espresso. That's nice. So underneath here you have some extra space where you can stow away the parcel shelf divider. Let's test the coffee. Really nice. So for you guys that wants to have more information of the cargo capacity, here is the different measurements on the screen now. It's also possible to add a tow hitch with a total tow capacity of 2.5 tons. A nice thing is that you can unfold the third row electronically. The only thing you need to do is to flip back the headrests, otherwise fully automatic. The second row though is not fully electric, so you need to unfold them manually by opening the side door. It's time to check the interior. Okay, so well on the inside, the first test I want to do is to see how well will I fit into all three rows. Starting at the front seat is adjusted after my position, after my driving position, and I'm 193 centimeters tall or 6'4". I'm gonna jump into the seat behind me, the second row, and adjust that after my positioning with enough legroom, and at the last point, jump into the third row. Let's go. Now in the second row, seat adjusted finally after my positioning. My feet is possible to squeeze in underneath the front seats, no problem at all. My knees are not touching the backrest of the driver's seat, and I have a lot of headroom, actually a fist of headroom here. So this back seat is really good, and I have a huge amount of extra space if I move the seat backwards and I don't want to utilize the last row. So this is the minimal position I can utilize to be able to travel comfortably. Now let's jump into the last row. Well, in the third row, no problem whatsoever with the headroom, almost one fist of extra headroom here. That's really impressive. When it comes to legroom, not that good. I mean, I need to man spread to be able to fit, so it will be really hard to sit beside me here. But I mean, I'm too tall to sit here at the third row. This is more meant for shorter people or kids mainly. But despite that, the seats are fairly comfortable, and there is some convenient features here at the back. I'm able to squeeze my feet underneath the front row. That's really good, and that actually makes a travel from here possible. And a cup holder at the side, a USB-C port at both sides, really good. And also adjustable angle of the backrest of the third row. That's really nice. Electrically adjustable angle for giving the rear passengers some extra comfort or creating some extra cargo space at the back. There is also a speaker function where the driver actually can talk in the microphone and reflect that sound into the last row for the people here to be able to hear what you actually are saying. That's a really cool and convenient feature. It's more of a minibus or minivan function, but I like it. Now let's jump into the second row and look at the convenient features and comfort aspects. This is one of the best second rows I have experienced, and as you see, headroom really great. The cushioning and the comfort in the seats are really nice, and you can actually adjust and recline it for a more relaxed position. And I must say that the headrests are really soft and well cushioned, and also adjustable in X-axis, so you can really create a good comfortable ride for you here. A mid armrest with 2 cup holders, and the 2 outer positions is actually equipped with heating and cooling or ventilation. That's really nice. 3 steps for each. You control that on the door trims here at the side. On top of that, a sunshade if it ever gets sunny here, maybe in about 6 months or something. And another great aspect is that each passenger actually has its own ventilation. So this aluminum ring, I think it's plastic, is adjustable. So you can adjust the airflow, turn it on, turn it off, depending on what you like. And that's available for each passenger, both in the second row and in the third row. Together with that, there is a climate screen here. And that climate screen is for controlling the third climate area, because there's actually 3 areas, climate zones, 1 for the driver, 1 for the passenger, and 1 for the 2 rear rows. So that's controllable from here. So here at the mid console, 2 cup holders, 2 USB-C ports, 1 for each side passenger. Underneath the cup holders, you have a really deep storage. It's uplighted, but it's really deep. It's like 40 centimeters of space there, so you can store a lot of things, but you may lose them because it's too deep. On the doors, you have side pockets for at least for some small bottles, and also ambient lighting at each door here at the back. And to the last thing, and that's the panoramic glass roof. The car is equipped with 2 glass roofs. The first one is actually a sunroof that's openable. This one is a panoramic glass roof, non-openable, but there is a electronically controlled curtain, so you can close it if it gets too sunny, and you do that from the front seat. Let's jump into the driver's seat and look at the details and materials. So well in the front, let's start with the materials and the quality of the interior, and let's start with the dashboard. On top of the dashboard, there is a head-up display and a central speaker. Surrounding that area, there is hard plastics. Otherwise, cushioned and soft touch, really nice. Here at the middle, a fabric-covered panel with some hidden ambient lighting underneath, going through under the screens and down to the doors and even to the rear seats. Another new and interesting feature is the hidden buttons inside this hard panel. Hidden, it's haptic touch buttons, so you feel and you get some feedback when you press them, also some vibrating sound. I really like that. They are illuminated during night, so you will see them, you will be able to utilize them the right way. Really clever design from Kia there. And whilst talking about controlling the screens, there's actually 3 screens now, 2 12.3-inch screens, 1 instrument cluster and 1 infotainment screen. Between those 2, there's a 5-inch screen for controlling the climate controls. And that's nice, but with a big but, because I have a hard time seeing that screen, because the side of the steering wheel is actually covering that screen whilst driving. Especially when I put my hand in that position, it's impossible to see that screen. So the implementation of the screen and the whole idea is great, but the positioning is a bit bad. 2 manually adjustable air vents, a volume knob, nice feel to that one, nicely implemented aluminum wheel that you spin for adjusting the volume, and actually you have hardware buttons for controlling temperature, the 2 zones, temp controls up and down. You have the flow, you can turn it on and off, the mode, and the temperature control for the passenger, and at the center the hazard light control. Under that control panel you have some power outlets. To the left, a USB-C port. You can switch that between only charging or data and charging. And to the right of that one, you have another USB-C port only for charging. And most further to the right, you have a hidden 12-volt outlet putting out 180 watt. So let's move on to the door sides. Soft touch materials here all the way to the top. It's only the lower bottom part that's hard plastic, but that's a good quality hard plastic. Aluminum speaker grills at the doors and some soft cushioned armrest here with all the controls for the windows, the door child lock, locking the windows, adjusting the side view mirrors. So on top of that control panel, there is another control panel next to the aluminum nice feel door latch. And that control panel is for controlling the steering wheel heater, the seat heating, the seat ventilation, and 2 memory slots for different drivers. Let's move on to the steering wheel. Really nice looking tidy steering wheel, round with a bit flatter top and bottom part with a lot of buttons. A cool thing though is that there is a illuminated Kia logo on top of the central part, the airbag. Really nice. And to the left you have all the controls for the menus on the screen and also the self-driving capabilities. To the right you have voice control and media control and a favorite button. So the star shows that this is customizable. You also have a star on the dashboard. Underneath the Kia logo you have the drive mode selector and a terrain mode selector. Behind the steering wheel there's 2 paddles, one to the right for decreasing the regeneration and to the left for increasing the regeneration. Underneath that you have a stalk, the drive mode selector, so you can select the drive mode, and there's also the EV on and off button. It's a bit strangely placed because you need to like fiddle around to press the button, so if you're standing outside the car you will have a hard time finding that one. And there's 2 ways of pressing it. If you have extremely long fingers you can press it that way. The second way is to go from below and use a thumb to press it. That way is a bit easier. So let's look at the storage possibilities in this car. You have a traditional glove box, fairly deep for storing your gloves only. And here at the middle, a storage area that can turn into 2 cup holders, adaptive, one smaller and one bigger cup holder. Really nice implementation. A fingerprint reader, auto hold button, hill descent button, activate the 360 cameras and the parking sensors, a neatly integrated Qi charger and some small amount of extra storage here. Underneath this compartment you have some fabric inlays, nice feel to those, ambient lighting, and at the bottom a big tray for storing things. It's rubber at the bottom, so it will prevent things from sliding around. And also some storage in the doors for storing bottles, etc. So all in all, fairly big amount of storage at the front. So to the last thing to talk about before we take the car for a drive, and that's the seat. And there is a lot of things to say about the seats. This is the comfort seats with the GT-line inscription at the top. 2-tone setup, fake leather, but really good feeling. So the seats are perforated, and that's because they are ventilated and heated. On top of that, the driver's seat also comes with massage functionality. There's a couple of different massage settings, and you activate those and step through those by pressing that button. So the first one is pelvis, lumbar, whole body massage, and off. So 3 different massage settings. This is more kind of a slower massage, working with air pillows, deflating, inflating, to give you a nice feel whilst driving. So let's continue with the seat. There is built-in lumbar support, both in Y-axis and X-axis, really nice. And with the same control button, you can adjust the side bolster support. You can tighten that up or loosen it depending on the amount of support you want and need. And a nice feature is that when you switch the drive mode, for instance to sport, it actually lowers the air or deflates the air cushioning on the seating position, so you go more deeply down into the seat and get a bit more side bolstering on the seating part. And it also stiffens up and inflates the sides of the seating, so we get a lot more sportier feel to the drive. And that's a really clever design by Kia here. So the seats are both comfort seats, but at the same time sport seats. Really clever, really nice. And another cool feature is that the comfort seat functionality goes beyond, and there's a specific button for activating the rest mode. If you are charging or want to rest in your car, you activate that by pressing this button, and that will unfold the leg support, fold the seat backwards, and put you in a floaty, nice sleeping position. And the good thing with that is that the neck rest is incredibly soft and nice, and also adjustable both in Y-axis and in X-axis. So these seats are really nice. So now it's time to take this beast for a drive, and we will test things like the drive modes, the regen, the driving dynamics, the suspension, the noise level, etc. Let's go. So well on the inside, driving this big beast, 2.6 tons heavy, 5 meters long, you really feel that. You never feel that it's lacking power, because the 386 horsepower is more than enough, it's plenty. All the torque is instantly available, and it's shooting off fairly quick, like a lot of EVs do, but this is a big EV, but that's still more than enough. Let's start with the different drive modes. You have 4 different drive modes. Easiest way to switch the drive modes is by pressing the drive mode selector on the lower part of the steering wheel. Let's press that one and walk through the different drive modes. You have Eco, Normal, Sport, and My Drive. And My Drive is your individual setting. Let's start with the Eco mode. It immediately feels a bit less punchy and powerful, and it doesn't give you that instant response on the accelerator. You feel a big difference for sure. It only seems to put out like half amount of the total power output. You see that on the power meter. It really limits that one. A lot more comfortable and easy going, but at the same time it feels a bit numb and slow. But it will probably help you to decrease the energy consumption during long trips. When it comes to the steering wheel, there's only 2 modes. There is a normal mode and a more stiffer mode. The Eco seems to utilize the normal steering mode, so it's fairly soft turning around. Otherwise, there seems to be nothing else outside the climate limitation that will save you some energy. So the climate will be putting out lower air conditioning, which means that you will save some energy during your drive. And by the way, there's a lot of beeping, and some of that beeping is due to the new EU regulations, and some of it are because of the driver surveillance system, the IR camera on top of the steering wheel. So yeah, this is the speed limit warning. That's totally possible to turn off. So when you drive the car a couple of kilometers per hour over the speed limit, it will give you those annoying beeps. And no matter what you do, every time you get into the car and start driving it, it will reactivate that function. So if you get annoyed by it, there is a way to turn it off, but you need to do it every time you jump into the car. And the easiest way of turning that off is to press the setup button on the dashboard, enter the driver assistance menu under the settings menu, and most further to the right there is a speed limit sign. Press that one and there is different settings. My recommendation is to not turn it off all the way, to set it to off, because if you turn it off, it will also disable the speed sign in the instrument cluster, so we won't show you that speed sign anymore. Easy solution for turning that off, but you need to do that every time you drive the car. But this is a problem for every new car from 2024 and onwards. Nothing unique with Kia. The good thing is that there is only one setting for turning off those two functions. So that's good. Let's switch from Eco to Sport. Some slight changes to the instrument cluster. Let's try to push it a little bit and see what happens. Yeah, it's really punchy. Now I see it on the power indicator. It gives me all the available power, fills up all the power bar the whole way up, 100% power output. And it's amazing how quick this car actually can pick up, because, whoa, it's that immediate feeling. It's a slight delay on the accelerator, like half a second maybe less than that. So it's not that instant as a Model Y Performance, for instance, but pretty darn close to that responsiveness. But it still feels really good. It's immediately responding to your steering wheel movements, and it doesn't behave badly. There is, of course, a bit of a body roll, and that's probably due to the lack of active suspension or active dampers. The only thing that's active is actually the height adjustments of the dampers at the rear. And those will adjust the height of the car to the optimal height depending on the load on the rear axle. Otherwise, there's traditional steel springs and dampers. It still feels like a really comfortable drive, and I need to be clear with that. It is of course more to the comfy setting than to the sporty setting, but it is not over comfortable and it does not make you seasick when driving it. Some cars, some SUVs tend to be a bit too boaty and floaty. For instance, the F-150 Lightning on highways, that one really gives you a strange feeling in higher speeds on highways. This one doesn't do that. And when it comes to the driving as such, this is a silent and comfortable car, all in all. It's very silent. And I'm doing a real noise test of the cabin noise, but that's another video, so stay tuned for that one. Now let's take this car for some gravel and uneven surfaces and see how noisy it gets and how it behaves when it comes to suspension comfort. Can it handle uneven surfaces in a good way? I think so, but let's try. So now a bit more uneven, some potholes, gravel mixed with ice and snow. So really not the best driving conditions. And man, this is a sophisticated car. And in this price class, it may be one of the best possible choices on the market for the moment. If you want a 7-seater, I really think that this is your current best choice if you're going for a fully electric, big-sized SUV. One nice feature is that when I actually turn the gear knob to set it into reverse, it vibrates. So there is a built-in vibrator into the gear selector. A really smart implementation. So Kia is really becoming a high-tech company with really nice implementations of hardware. Impressive. I want to summarize the suspension experience here on the uneven surfaces. No problem whatsoever. No missed sounds in the suspension. Nothing strange. Behaves really nice and doesn't get that noisy and uncomfortable. So a fine-tuned, good suspension. One thing that I really like, and that goes for all Kias, Hyundais, the new setup, that's when you use the turn signals, automatically activates a side view mirror functionality, utilizing the cameras on side of the car, showing you the dead angle on your left side when I turn the turn signal on to the left. Really nice implementation. They have been doing that for a couple of years now, but I think that's one of the best implementations of the side view cameras for modern cars. And it really enhances the user experience and the technical implementation as an aid for you as a driver. Really good work from Kia there. In general, I think the software is really evolving, and I think Kia has really carried out a good system. It really works nice. It's fairly easy to find the different functions in the menus when you have got used to it, and there is plenty of it actually. I think it's a good evolved system, and I haven't experienced any bugs, anything whatsoever. Everything seems to work fairly flawless. I mean, and that's really good these days, because there is a lot of companies struggling with their software, but I must say that Kia have seemed to be able to implement it in a good way without any bigger flaws. So let's talk about the recuperation or regeneration in the Kia EV9. And this is something Kia has been doing well, both for this car and for the EV6, because you have a lot of recuperation, and I really like that. So my favorite setting is to maximize the recuperation, and you do that by pressing the left pedal until it says I pedal and max. So that's the mode that gives you the one pedal driving. My favorite drive mode when it comes to recuperation. And it really comes to a full stop. It stopped. And this is how one pedal driving recuperation should work in all electric cars. And if you don't have enough recuperation on your electric motor, then please implement the brakes. Add brakes on it, because it really helps you as a driver. I mean, as soon as you get used to one pedal driving, you won't drive it in any other mode, because that's the perfect mode and you get used to it. Even on highways, I think it's really easy and nice way of driving a electric car these days. But the good thing though is that if you don't like it, you can on highways, for instance, if you want to coast without using your right foot that granular, you can relax a bit more and put it into level 0 by pressing the right pedal all the way till it says level 0, and then you will coast in a really nice way. So that will be the two modes I use. 0 on some highway driving, maybe when going down for slopes, coasting, or one pedal driving. That's the only thing you need. I mean, everything in between 0 and I pedal driving is useless. I mean, that's my personal opinion, so I hope you don't get offended by it. If you think differently, please let me know in the comments and let us discuss about how you think you should drive an electric car and what you think about one pedal driving. Write that in the comments. But really nicely done. The drive mode seems to work good, and the regen is perfectly executed and implemented. Really nice job. And the driver surveillance system is a bit annoying, but I guess that's how it should be. It's telling me to take coffee breaks, it's blinking a red eye, telling me to focus. I'm doing my best. One thing that I haven't mentioned and talked about is the premium sound system from Meridian. So it comes with a 14 speaker setup, putting out a really nice sound. It's warm, it sounds good, and I like it. So the sound is very warm and nice, but it's lacking that final punch on deep bass sounding music. So a bit deeper bass lacking Otherwise, a really good and comprehensive sound system. And I think it's one of the warmer sounds I have tested. That's really nice. Let's test some highway driving. Now 100 kilometers per hour. I will activate the self-driving capabilities by switching on that on the right side of the steering wheel. So now it's active, the HDA system, and I'm increasing the distance to the cars in front of me. And now it's totally self-driving, keeps me in the lane, also keeps the speed, and on top of that, the distance to the surrounding cars. And I have been testing a lot of different systems. This has been updated since my last test, but it still doesn't have the LiDARs that you get on the EV9 in other countries. So the Swedish version does not have the LiDAR system implemented as a hardware. So it's probably not as competent as in other countries when taking delivery, but I have been impressed by Kia's self-driving capabilities all earlier, and that goes for this car too. I mean, it works really nice. It stays just in the center of the lane. I actually have nothing direct to complain about when it comes to the self-driving capabilities. It works really good. It's easy to activate, it's easy to adjust, and it's you can trust it on highways. It doesn't work as good as Tesla does on smaller and slower roads, but on highways I have a hard time telling the actual difference. It illustrates everything, all the cars in the center of the instrument cluster in a really nice way. As you saw here, a car just drive by and you see it illustrated as a box. Doesn't look like a car. Now there's another box passing through, a black box, but it still illustrates the cars. And it also shows me which car it actually measures the distance to. So that car actually lights up in a lighter color and in a lighter scheme than the other cars passing by. So it's showing me what it's actually focusing on. It's really stable. It doesn't do that wobbling in the lane. So now in 110 kilometers per hour, almost 105, it's still a really silent cabin. And it's raining now, so that's of course adding a little bit of a noise to the cabin, but still silent. I don't hear any wind noise on the A-pillars at all, maybe at a bit higher speeds, but it's a silent car, even in high speeds. Let's see what happens if I try to change the lane. Activate the system again. Now it's active. Signaling to the left, showing me on the instrument cluster that it's changing the lane. It's changing the lane for me. I'm just holding the steering wheel and it continues. It doesn't disengage the autopilot. Let's move back to the right side. It also gives me and shows me the same illustrations in the head-up display. Really nicely implemented with all the colors, all the interactive information, the lane change as such, the cars in front of me, the speed limit. The head-up display really adds to the experience, and it's really tidy and easy to follow. So all in all, the self-driving capabilities that Kia delivers is really good. One of the better in the segment, I would say. Let's talk about the price. Most of the electric cars on the market today is expensive. That's the biggest problem for electric cars, because there's no one bringing out really cheap alternatives to the market. That also goes for the EV9. I mean, this is not a cheap car, but it's still a lot of bang for the buck, because compared to the competition on the market, there is currently 2 more 7-seaters available, big SUVs, and that's the Mercedes EQS SUV and the Model X. Those 2 cars are a lot more expensive. The EV9 starts at 72,000 euros, and that's for the rear-wheel drive version. with the smaller motor. So 204 horsepower rear-wheel drive. I don't think I would recommend that one because you need more power for such a heavy car. I will go for the four-wheel drive version. And the four-wheel drive version, this one, the GT line here in Sweden, costs 870,000 Swedish crowns or 83,000 euros. You get a fully spec'd car, all-wheel drive, nicely designed exterior with the GT line, all the packages you need, and a seven-seater. You can add a couple of thousand to change to the six-seat layout, and then you get two seats in the middle row. In the second row, that's rotatable, so you can rotate those seats backwards, so you can have kind of a, I don't know, bonfire discussion between the two rear rows. And those seats are, by the way, a lot more luxurious. I think they are called like captain seats. That's full comfort seats you get at that setup, not a row, a bench like this one. But I still think that the bench is really practical and still gives you enough comfort. But the cool thing is that Kia has really transformed its brand. I mean, Kia is not what it used to be. The strange thing though is that they still offer cars that's not as premium as the brand is nowadays. So you can get more or less cheaper Kias, feels like it's another brand. But the EV line though, the EV6, the EV9 and some of the other SUVs are really premium cars. And maybe the consumers are not used to that yet, but there's not much distinguishing other premium brands from Kia nowadays. I will try to summarize my full review of the Kia EV9 GT-line. If you are looking for a full-size SUV, a seven-seater, fully electric, this is the one. This is the only affordable fully electric car in this segment. There is no one else on the market playing right now. So this is your shot. And I think it really ticks all the boxes when it comes to looks, practicality, range, technology, comfort. This is a great package in all aspects. So for me, if I was in the market for a fully electric seven-seater, this would be the car I would have gone for, without no doubt. So I think that's really it. I have tried to cover as much as possible, but it's really hard to shrink everything into a video without doing it too long. So I hope I managed to cover the most important aspects for you as a viewer. There is coming a video about range, consumption, acceleration, noise, and charging. That's also really important aspects. So I'm actually trying that and releasing that in the next video. So don't miss that one. The best way to support my work and to help me continue doing what I do is to engage into my videos. Write comments, give them thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, very important. And as I always say, stay electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.